Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Party Pace podcast. Today, I'm joined once again with my co-host. This is Nolan from the Bike Sauce, and we're talking about bike fit, specifically his experience swapping over to shorter cranks. We're going to do some tool nerdery, and is the bike industry doomed? Some speculative content, because that seems to be all the rage. How's it going, Nolan?
Doing pretty good. I think this is probably going to be the last one before you guys are shooting over.
Yeah, we fly over to Spain this Saturday. And
oh my gosh.
Saturday at midnight, and through the magic of time travel, we'll be in Spain, I think, Monday morning. So
Right.
we'll be pretty tired.
Yeah, it's here. I mean, I remember when you first sort of announced it publicly. It feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been, I have a friend that was super into sailing, and he said, sailboats move super slow at 5 miles per hour until right before you get to the dock. Then they move too fast. And that's definitely what it feels like. It's been this thing we've been working towards, and now that it's within a week away, it's just very overwhelming.
Sure. So probably for the next 10 days or so, it's just going to be sorting out logistical stuff.
Pretty much. I think we're going to sleep for 2 days. But we have to sort of hit the ground running, because the second we get in the country, the attorney is going to file the visa work, and we've got to get a bank account started.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's to pay rent. We have to find a more permanent address rather than the vacation rental, because for the resident ID number, you need something more permanent. So there's we already have a checklist of things we have to do the second we land in Spain.
Right. What do you think content creation is going to look like during that period?
Probably a lot of live streams, just because it's going to be fairly kind of low lift content until we get things sorted and see what we're, how it's going to work out.
Yeah. You just transition to do a vloggy thing for a couple of weeks, just so
that's
people.
True.
I'm sure people are interested. Yeah.
Just 180 change to a travel vlog channel.
Yeah.
I can already hear my AdSense jumping off a cliff.
Well, we're getting near to the end of the year anyway, so
that's true.
It's gonna tank anyways.
I know, but that November, December, that's when it pays most of the bills.
Oh, got you.
Yeah. So what's new with you? You've been in the process of assembling a bike,
right?
Yeah, is it rideable yet?
Yeah, it's the Blackheart aluminum all-road bike this is the most recent build. The whole idea behind the all-road is you can kind of get away with having two wheel sets, and it's sort of a gravel bike and it's sort of a road bike. It doesn't do either particularly well, but it's just one bike is the idea. Did a couple rides on it in gravel mode, and then more recently put the road slicks on. It's the first time I bought road tires in over a decade, I'm sure. Went right back to the Continental GP, and at the last time I bought them, they were on 4,000. So now they're on 5,000, and there's a bunch of different variations. So went with 700 by 32 slicks, which feels so skinny.
Yeah.
But it's about the widest road tire you'll ever see. And it's great. Yeah. I mean, it feels like a rocket. It's fun. I'm kind of like, I forgot what road cycling is about. And it's been a little bit of fun. One of the things that went along with it is this is the bike that I put the shorter cranks on. So it's the first time I'm going with a 165 millimeter crank thing. That's the GRX 2x.
And you were what were you riding previously? 170, 172.5?
Yeah, both. So some bikes had 170, others had 172.5, and honestly, I didn't even know. I had assumed I was riding 170s the whole time.
Right.
On one of the group sets, I looked down. I was like, "Gotta be kidding me! It's 172.5," and I could certainly tell a difference from even going from 170 to 165. I was afraid that I it didn't cost a ton of money, but I bought brand new cranks just for
Right.
5 millimeters, and I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to tell, but
Yeah.
it
So
makes a difference. Yeah.
what changed?
I don't know. Like it almost felt like when I first went out, it almost felt harder, which sounds weird. But I think what it actually is that there's just no dead spots in the pedal rotation. So there's no part of there's no part of the pedal stroke where you're doing nothing. It kind of feels like, and so initially it felt like harder, almost like there was no rest time mid stroke. But I got kind of used to it, and I think I was riding faster, and so I ended up just dialing back a little bit. So now you can kind of cruise, I think maybe at it feels like slightly lower effort, right? So if you just dial back a little, you'll go the same speed, and it sort of feels like you're not doing as much work. All that, yeah. So everything I just said, I think you put it best by saying it feels like you're pedaling in circles more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
But did you feel any difference in terms of like leading forward? Did it feel like easier to do, or about the same?
Leaning forward?
Yeah, like getting into the drops. Did it feel any more comfortable?
Oh yeah, for sure. It doesn't feel like your knees aren't really like getting in the way anymore. Yeah, that's a big component of it too. Yeah. I mean, I think I enjoy it. I've already I started just browsing around, seeing what it would take to get shorter cranks on my other bikes, but that's another story.
So is 165 is the shortest like stock option that Shimano offers for GRX and stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's relatively recent. Like they weren't doing 165 when GRX first came out. So I don't know when that happened, but yeah, just recently.
Yeah. We actually put shorter cranks on Laura's bike like last week. And same thing with her. Like we got her takeoff cranks back, and I was like, oh, they're 172s. I'd assume she was on 170s. And we just did kind of her first like middle-ish length ride today, and I asked her if she felt a difference. And for her, what she felt was her toes weren't going numb. Like I guess she had she was fiddling with her height up and down just because she felt like her toes were clenching, but she could never get it just right. But because of the shorter crank, somehow that's disappeared. So
that's interesting. Yeah, so that's one I hadn't heard of yet.
Yeah, and she has. I mean, she's got longer legs than me, but when she ran it through the calculators on the Appleman site, I think it recommended 155s. But we went with 165s because that's what she got some white industry cranks, and that's the shortest they're going now. So.
I feel like the Appleman calculator, I feel like you're always surprised by it. Like no matter what,
it's pretty aggressive. It's like everyone should be on 155.
Like, I mean, obviously there's some science or some kind of motivation for their outputs on the website, but I mean, like you tried the actual recommended crank length, but you backpedaled a little bit, right?
I did. Like it felt good, but it felt extreme. So I was like, well, I see where it's going, but maybe I want to dial back just a little bit, and I'll work up to 155s. I mean, the biggest thing I noticed was that like my low gears felt really hard, just because you don't have as big of a lever, and I didn't want to lose that, the spinniness in the low end. Yeah, so I was like, I split the difference. It's definitely still advantageous compared to like the 172.5s I was using, but I don't know. Who knows if 155 is optimal? But I was like, I'm not going to be super dogmatic about it. I'm going to trend in that general direction and see how I feel.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like the tire width thing,
right?
Eventually, we'll all be on 150 length.
Yeah,
crank lengths, but it'll take us a while to get there.
I mean, it's just how the industry goes, right? Like you go a little bit too extreme and then you dial it back. Like there's the ridiculous, towel rack bars from Ron.
Yeah.
and some people imitated that. But if it did anything, it pushed kind of the bars in the middle just a little bit wider. So it's about finding that kind of happy medium.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so 165, I think for now it's definitely my favorite crank length, but I always was under the impression that I only had one crank length, the 170, but so I guess that goes to show you, like, well, at least for me, I couldn't tell a difference between 170 and 172.5. So
yeah,
must be some magical jump. That 5 millimeter threshold is where it's at.
Yeah. It's surprising. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but apparently it's enough. Yeah. Some folks in our Discord actually recommended 2 companies, and what they do is they modify cranks, and they'll go as low as like 150. There's one person in the UK and another person in the US. I'll put the links in the description below after the stream if you guys are interested. But yeah, talking about short crank length availability, bigger brands like Shimano, if you wanted to go sub 165, the options probably aren't there yet. I think, like White Industries only does 165, but won't do 160 or smaller. But with these companies, you ship them cranks, or I think they also have a program where you can just buy new cranks and they'll mod it. So.
And what they do is they actually chop the crank length down, right? They drill and tap new holes, and then they just chop off the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a cool service, but you can't modify all cranks, right? The delta has to be sufficiently large.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, what happens if, what they do. Do they bore like a really big hole and then they plug it, and then and bore in like a smaller hole in the plug?
I didn't actually know. I was under the assumption that the offset had to be at least twice the diameter of the spindle.
Yeah.
So that there's no overlap. But yeah, maybe they do fill it and re-drill or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyways.
Let's see. I'm going to go hop in the chat real quick. Who here is a big fan of shorter cranks? Have you switched? Are you short crank curious? Let us know. See the mine unset. Appleman stuff is beautiful as well as also yes, they are indeed pricey. But that's what you get for the leading edge. Andrew Chi, have you looked at Dixna Lacranks? Yes, I've made a couple videos on them. They're on my Sklar, and they're definitely my recommendation for short cranks, because they do increments from, what was it, like 135 to 175 in 2.5 millimeter increments, and they have a 110/74 BCD, so you can do interesting gearing combinations, and their external bottom brackets. So far, so good.
And they're, from what you mentioned, they're relatively affordable, right? They're not like super boutique.
Yeah, when I bought them, they were, I want to say, like 150 USD, and then they ship from Japan, so there's a bit of a shipping cost. But after my video, I think they bumped up the price a little bit.
Damn you, Russ.
So now I think it's like 200 USD, but still. How much did the GRX cranks cost?
About 150 or 160, I think it was. Yeah. Maybe 169 or something, but not outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
A lot of people still on 175s, it looks like, in the chat.
175s? Come on, guys. It's still like 1980s.
Well, what if they're like 6'5"? They might be tall.
So someone's been trying 145s. Dang, that is short. It's a short crank. What's your inseam? I'd be curious. So Drew Felix says, all my bikes are not 165. I want to try shorter, but I know I'll like it and I have to spend way too much money for all my 6 bikes. It's a slippery slope. Do you find yourself doing that math now?
Yeah, right. I mean, there's some bikes that are demo bikes that I don't really touch, but there is a pretty sizable fleet of permanent bikes in the garage. So yeah, it's tough.
I'm curious if it's any easier to find shorter crank lengths in for mountain bikes or for road?
Tough to say, but what I will say is that the trend toward shorter length is also there in mountain bike, in the mountain
Okay,
bike world,
that's
right?
interesting.
Yeah. The GMBN just did like a whole big thing on short crank lengths with I think they involved Seth and some other big YouTubers. So
Yeah.
it's all going shorter. I guess that's the newest, the newest trend.
Shorts the new big thing.
Right.
So let's talk bike fit. So you got a chance to do my VeloFit. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I mean some couple of stars aligned, I think, because we were talking about crank lengths, we were talking about fit a little bit, and then I built up the black cart, and it was the first bike I've had with 165. So for whatever reason, I was having a really hard time just getting it to feel right. So I thought that'd be a good chance to try out my VeloFit. Excuse me. I put up the video. I put up the video for the bike fit, and it was just kind of almost just like stream of consciousness. I was out on a ride, just kind of talking to the camera. But yeah, it was really interesting. Like during the fit, it took 4 iterations for me to feel really comfortable on the bike, and that took all of an hour. That's with recording and talking. Whereas for the couple of days prior, I was just having a really hard time getting it to feel right. I think part of it, like, I don't know what your take on is, but I feel like maybe part of it is not placebo, but like seeing the ranges and seeing all the numbers kind of line up in a nice green line, that did a lot to help psychologically, I think. Because before that, you make a little change, you go out for a ride, you kind of try to, I don't know, like come to some conclusion.
Yeah.
You make another change that you think will help a certain way, but it totally doesn't.
Right. So what alterations to the bike did you end up having to do? Did the seat go lower, taller, stem length? Which direction?
Seat went interesting. Seat went lower, and then it had to come up again. So there was almost a wash in seat height, but the seat had to be slid forward a little bit, and the handlebars came up by 5 millimeters. I know it sounds kind of, if you put it that way, it sounds kind of mundane. Like I got a comment. There was like a really spicy comment. Something like, "Oh wow, I'm so shocked. Your handlebars went up and it was more comfortable. Wow." It's like, all right, jerk. But like,
sometimes it's not. Like I've had fits where the fitter lowered the bars and it felt better.
Oh, interesting.
And the idea is, given like the angle of your trunk, if your bars are too high, then your shoulders get pushed up like this. So you actually want a lower bar, so it's more relaxed.
Interesting.
Because I'd been, I had that assumption like, well, if you want it more comfortable, you just keep raising it up infinitely. But
right,
depends on how much you're leaning forward or not.
Right.
So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, there's this weird like stigma, I guess. I mean, not really a stigma, but like when you're building up a bike, at least for me, I'm like got short legs, long torso. I get apparently short arms too. So when I set up a bike, I'll put the seat where it looks good, and I'm using air quotes, right? Because looks good is always super tall seat, super low handlebars.
Right.
And I'm just not proportioned that way. If I get on one of those bikes, I'm like, I can't even see. I can't look high enough to like. So I was pleasantly surprised that the app actually told me to make it not look like that to be comfortable for my proportions. So,
which because when you're using my VeloFit, you can dial in how spicy that you want the fit. Like what did you choose?
I did right down the middle, balanced between performance and comfort. Yeah. Because I mean, I should have just gone comfort, but I still have this like these lofty ideas that I want to get fast and be a little performance-y.
There you go. Let's see. Jared asks, is it possible to use this app, my VeloFit, without a trainer, do you think that if you have rollers, but
I know, yeah, that was another one of the spicy comments. $35 app, but you need a $300 trainer to use it.
Yeah,
I don't know. That one's tough. Maybe you could like stick out a long boom arm and put the phone at the end of it and just ride outside.
there you go. If you got a Insta360 and a selfie stick and held it perfectly out while you were riding, then you could probably capture that footage. But yeah,
not recommended. That's actually how I broke my shoulder.
So you definitely need a trainer of some sort, but I feel like you probably, if you commune with other cyclists, someone's got a trainer, or invariably, you'll probably see a trainer in a garage sale or Goodwill or something.
That's right. Trainer doesn't have to mean $300 smart trainer. It can mean a $25 like just like the mechanical one with like a little bit of magnetic resistance.
Yeah. You're not Zwifting on it. It's not talking to a computer. You just need it to keep you upright so you don't fall over.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had a very positive experience with it. I paid for it, out of pocket, so I had no affiliation with them. And honestly, it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. How much like technical or mechanical knowledge do you think someone should have before they endeavor to use my VeloFit at home?
Technical, as far as just like setting up equipment?
Yeah, like what level of comfort should someone have like working on their bike to be successful at using my VeloFit?
Oh, I got you. Yeah. I mean, obviously you should be able to raise and lower your saddle, which is just an Allen key. Ideally, you'd be able to slide your seat back and forth, which is usually just 1 or 2 Allen wrenches. I guess the main one is probably being able to raise and lower your handlebars, which for a threadless system is not trivial. I mean, it's pretty simple, but you've got to adjust your headset when you're done and stuff like that. So
it's also good to have a good array of stem lengths if possible.
Yeah, that was the hard one. Yeah, I almost went to a shorter stem because the numbers seemed like they're kind of pushing me that way, but I managed to get in range without.
Yeah, without having to splash out for one.
I mean, I've got some. I just didn't want to. I was, so that's more work than everything else combined. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Plantain says, is it worth getting an expert fit for an average rider and long-term benefit?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think you'll have to take this one. I haven't had the professional fit.
By expert fit, I'm assuming he means with an actual person.
Yeah, let's assume expert fit means like a real in-person bike.
I think so. I mean, there's some things that there's definitely limitations to what the app can troubleshoot, and having a knowledgeable fitter. I think especially one with a PT background, and not just like a bike shop employee that went to Fit School 101 and is fitting by numbers, is beneficial. Like one of the guys I really like is Kevin from Pedal PT in Portland, because he was a physical therapist first and foremost, but focused primarily on bikes, and he can troubleshoot other things. He can suggest stretches, ways to if you have tightness in other areas, he can ID that in a way that someone that's just trying to fit you to match angles probably can't.
Right.
And the price varies. Like I feel like Portland's pretty good insofar as that there's a couple options for fitters that have that experience, and it doesn't necessarily cost like an arm and a leg. It doesn't cost free, but
I mean, it's still a couple of hours worth of like specialized time, right? So
yeah,
you're probably looking 300-ish. What would be my guess for like a professional fit?
I don't know what Kevin's rates are now, but I feel like it was sub 200.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
And it was, and it depends on what you're trying to go after. Right. If you're like want a super aggressive position and you're trying to race an event and all this other stuff, then maybe it might take longer and be more expensive. And he brings out all the doodads. But if you're just like, I want to ride casually and I don't want to hurt, then the bar is a little bit different.
Right. Yeah. It's two very, very different goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the app, like, technically the app takes your profile video, right? Which means it can do a lot, but it can't do anything with like knee tracking, like head on, face on.
Right.
Fit. It can't really do much about like cleat position, I don't think.
Yeah.
And just other stuff like handlebar width, saddle fit and stuff like that. It's more just, I mean, like there's a free fit. Like you can download the app and try it out, and you can do it all for free. And it basically just tells you if your angles are within some range. And then you pay the money and you get the actual numbers that define those ranges. So, I mean, the conclusion that I came to was the free version, like for anybody who's like semi-serious about cycling, like the free version, I don't think was enough to actually improve your fit. But for $35, I mean, like I'm more comfortable on the bike, certainly, and that was, to me, it was worth it.
I mean, that's a pretty good deal. Like I feel like the cheapest I've ever got an in-person bike fit for was maybe like $80. It was, it wasn't a super long session. It was just to make sure that, I wasn't doing something horribly wrong.
Yeah. So it was a good experience. I had a good experience with it.
Yeah. Cool. So we talked short cranks, bike fit. If you guys have any other questions about my VeloFit or short cranks, would love to hear if you guys have tried it. Let us know in the comments. Let's see what if there are any other questions here. Sean says, fit is kind of a moving target depending on your fitness, flexibility, etc. Agree. Over time, in my humble opinion, something like my VeloFit could save you a bunch of time and money when things need to change. I think that's a good tool for it as like as something to tune up your fit at home.
Yeah, for sure. Fit your that's right. Air quotes is right. Your fit is not like a constant. Like it's not like once you have your numbers, that's it for the rest of your life. So
yeah.
I should be clear too. $35 is weird to say one time because that's a one-time payment for 2 weeks of access to the app. So if you want to adjust something a year later, you would have to pay again. There's also an annual subscription, which is like their top tier, something like $80 a year, and that's just unlimited everything. So as many uploads and bike profiles as you want.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Mark asks, what bar width am I running? I tend to run them pretty wide, so anywhere between 46 to 48. And that's not for any like ergonomic reason. It's because my favorite handlebar bag just needs that width. Let's see. William asks, would be interested in hearing what bar width the fitters you've talked to have recommended. I feel like this is very fluid, the whole bar width discussion, because it used to be, there was a general rule of thumb that if you're riding drop bars, then it should be as wide as your shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if that were true, why do mountain bikers have such wide bars? So clearly there are instances when you want to be wider than your shoulders. Some people have posited that, the reason for narrow bars is because, at the end of a road race, there's usually a field sprint and you don't want to get tangled. So they want to make it as, no wider than necessary for the last like 100 meters. But, if you're not doing that, then I think you have a little bit more flexibility. One thing, like I actually did a video with Kevin from Pedal PT when shortly after Ron came out with the massively long bars and Salsa came out with a series of the wood chippers in like 52, 50, and 48. and I did some very bad English major trigonometry, trying to figure out how, as your bars get wider, it effectively increases your reach. So, if you make them infinitely wide, then you also have to bring it a little bit closer in. Otherwise, you're just doing like a weird, weird position.
Right. We could revise the math on that one.
And I think his rule of thumb was for every 2 centimeters of width, you should bring your bar, you should get a 1 centimeter shorter stem. So I don't know how hard and fast that is, though.
I mean, that's got to be a rule of thumb, because it's a nonlinear nonlinear function, right? So if your arms are already super far out and you go 2 centimeters wider, you're gonna
right.
be touching with them.
Yeah. So in terms of like bar width and fitters, I think it depends on the fitter you go to, and to what goals they're fitting you to.
Yeah, I think some of it is comfort and preference too. It will depend on where you're riding and what you like to ride. Certainly with wider bars, you do have more control, and more leverage, but that's not always what you want.
What width bars do you have on your gravel bikes?
Everything that's drop bar is 42 right now.
Really? Dang, that's narrow.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I had experimented a little bit with 44 and 46. 46 to me felt a little bit wide. If you go too wide, you get more leverage, but you also lose a little bit of mobility, right? Because I don't know how to explain it, but if your hands are right in front of you, you've got all this range of motion to absorb stuff. If your arms are out here, you don't have much. It's like you're doing a wide grip push-up for like an hour, and there's not a lot of like I guess range of motion. So I think I was feeling that a little bit on all the mountain bikes. You buy handlebars now, they're all 800 millimeters.
Right.
To me, when I ride one of those, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm stiff because they're so wide. I can't like move my body around. So for mountain bikes, I always chop them down to about 780.
Okay.
Which, again, doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've just, again, I think I've landed on the width bars I have because I run big handlebar bags. So a lot of the ways, like the front handlebar bags that I use have dictated my position on the bike, especially like a handlebar height, because I need it to clear the top of the tire.
Mm-hmm. So. I see. Yeah, so everyone's got different priorities, right? So bar width is kind of subjective. I'm sure there's some like PT answer to the question of what's ideal, but yeah.
I know that do you know the cyclist Chris Horner? He won the Vuelta a couple of years ago. He's retired now. He's got a channel, I forget what it's called. But anyways, he's known as like a pretty good climber, and he runs like wider than the normal handlebars. And I think the story was that he just, that's what his mechanic put on and tried it out, and he liked it. Just gave him a lot more leverage when he was standing and climbing. So I don't think he was riding 4D6s though, but it seemed like wider than what he was supposed to be riding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I feel like I should know the name, but no.
Yeah. Professional cycling, whatever. Yeah. Let's see. What should we move on to? So another big bit of news. John Watson, or I guess he goes by John Prawley on the grams, has announced that once again the Radivis is independent. And if you guys don't know, I don't know the behind the scenes, but it sounds as if, I don't know if he had sold the site to the Pros Closet, or they had some management deal where he was still involved, but they were funding it. But as you guys know, the industry's kind of jumped off the cliff as of late, and he has resumed ownership. So I don't know if it was one of those things where they're like, we're going to shut it down. Do you want it? Or
he got it for a steal. He made money on the transaction.
Right. Sell high, buy low. Bam. But he's done some interesting things in the process. He's set up like a subscription service similar to what we do with our Patreon, and also like a marketplace that he calls the Bike Bazaar, which is, I think, in some ways an interesting move. It's similar to, do you know Doug DeMuro, the car
guy? Yeah,
the car guy, because he's got his own marketplace, and that that generates a fair amount of dollars for him.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was interesting. Like it brings up to me the question of what is independent bike content creator. I think it's a spectrum. I think the most independent, what I hopefully strive to be one day, is where we just have enough money and we just buy the things and we review the things and we give the things away. But that's just not the case.
One can only dream. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do draw like a editorial line in the sand. Like I won't ever, I don't do like presentations very much, like where I get a product and then I'm also paid to make a video about it. Mm-hmm. Like I've left like a lot of money on the table because of that. I will accept products and not get paid and still do the review, but I have free reign to talk about the product. Right. And I think that's within, is it completely 100% like, best case scenario in the world, super independent? No. There is some dependency on said company that provides the product, but I feel like you can still talk freely about something, because it's not like I can take that thing that I can't take that crank and then pay my rent with it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on like the state of bike YouTube creation or bike content creation in this question of independence?
I don't know. I feel like maybe the most independent, the most independent source would be brand new YouTubers, right? Who only have the stuff in their garage that they paid for to review.
That's true.
That's why I like watching a lot of the smaller channels and just getting their take on stuff, because often you'll hear stuff, they'll complain about something that's a good point, but that none of the other bigger channels would ever bring up. I don't have an example to back that up. This is all just kind of, umbrella statements. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I like I don't know. Do you expect the content on Rativist to change at all?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it changed all that much when it was owned by the Prez Closet, to be honest. Like, or I didn't notice a change. Maybe, there's like a bike of the week that's on the Prez Closet you should go check out. But I feel like, I don't know. I don't think it changed all that much.
Right. So then on this side of the spectrum, it's like independent, maybe small channels like mine.
Well, I think it's interesting. It's interesting he's going to a subscription model, which I've always felt is the way to go. Like years ago, like when I made the decided choice to go on YouTube, I did the math, and there are only so many bike brands that are willing to spend ad dollars, and there would be very few that would be willing to spend ad dollars with me because I'm such a weird niche. I don't speak the regular bike jargon. And they're definitely going to prioritize other websites or media outlets than just like some rando bike YouTuber that doesn't race, right? So I knew that would be like the worst place to try to make this sustainable. And the thing with that is you can't grow more brands to potentially sponsor you, but you can grow more subscribers or more people watching. So that seemed like the better, longer play. And even though it's not as sexy as getting, you know, a $50,000 check from SRAM or something, and then you can make content for like a year, it's ultimately going to be more stable, right? Because look at, you know, what Specialized did, dumped all the ambassadors. What, you know, lots of racers are not even you know, getting paid anymore.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. To me, it's always been the better longer term play to go directly to the viewer for support.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it would take to be completely independent, meaning like you have enough Patreon supporters. I mean, you know, presumably you do a little bit of that now, right? You'll use some of the funds to buy product.
Yeah, like there's some things like you know, smaller things like tools or bags or whatever, you know, we'll buy. I can't be we're not making enough to be buying $5,000 bikes every month to review. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
But ultimately, you know, that would be a goal. Like one of my you know, one of my favorite YouTubers that does it well, I think, but is in the coffee space is James Hoffman. You know, he makes enough money like in his other business and everything that when he reviews a coffee product, he just buys it and gives it away on Patreon.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's a pretty cool model.
Yeah, well, and you've been doing a lot of that, right? You'll do giveaways or contests on Patreon.
They're haiku challenges.
Sorry, because you're not allowed to. Is that
you can't do giveaways on Patreon. Like if you guys, I don't know who in the chat's in the Patreon, but that's the reason why we always do a haiku challenge.
That's maybe the most creative thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, because I'm the first time, like we just started our Patreon. We wanted to give away something, and they have like a bot or something that scrapes the text, and it saw the word giveaway and it flagged the post.
Oh wow!
You can't, because it's considered a lottery at that point.
Yeah.
So the way it's structured is it can't be random chance. All the people that support you on Patreon have to have an equal opportunity. Like you can't weight it more towards the people that are spending more per month. And it's so that's why like the haiku challenge works out, because it's there you have to do something. but the barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah. I'm always surprised that you don't feature those on the channel. Like, you know, because you do the Patreon, like, hey, support the channel on Patreon. By the way, you can win cool stuff by winning a haiku challenge, and then like show a list of like the top 3 winners from the past 3 months, because they're good poems. They legitimately make me laugh every time.
Yeah, I've considered like I don't want people to join the Patreon just to win stuff. Like I want them to join because they want to support the channel, because then it becomes a slippery slope of it's like, oh, I'm only going to do it, and once I win, I'm going to, you know, peace out. So
that's true.
That's not the quality of supporter that I want. I want someone that's like super engaged, you know, loves the channel, and it's like this is just icing on the cake.
That's right.
So,
well, but if you tell people there is icing on the cake, then
true.
you may attract more of those people.
That's true. Well, yeah, we'll try it. But we've I don't say we've given away, but there have been some pretty good challenge prizes.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. I'm always surprised at what you have available for the month or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Rativist. I think, you know, it's definitely a trend moving forward as like ad dollars dry up, and you know, content creators have to get more creative and not rely on the same sources of income that they've traditionally had the chance to rely on.
Yeah.
So I went to high school in Burbank, and we had it was a weird school where you could take 2 tracks. One was a media track and one was a medical track. If you did the medical track, you'd intern at the Providence hospitals. If you did the media track, you'd intern at NBC, Disney, some of the local studios. And we had a whole class on advertising, and specifically newspaper advertising. And it shocked me to learn like that the first thing that they did, past tense because there are no newspapers now, but when they when they used to lay out newspapers, the first thing that they did was prioritize the ad space.
Oh,
and then fit the content around it. And to me, that was so appalling. That was like, the primary function of a newspaper was to generate ad revenue and then inform the public. So that always kind of scarred me mentally. So everything I've approached since then has always been okay. Like I want to be as, independent as possible. If I can survive without, relying on too many ads or sponsorship things like that, then yeah.
That's interesting. You need to do like a YouTube masterclass on philosophy behind how to run your channel.
Right.
Because it's easy. I get a handful of emails a week on like, hey, we'll pay you to promote this product, and I'm at the point now where like, it's not a big channel, but companies are reaching out frequently. Most of the time, it's for nothing that's related to what I do at all. But sometimes it's like, you've seen a couple of e-bikes on the channel, like those were just sent to the house, and I got to keep them after. At some point, maybe I sold off a couple of them. So you could consider that profit, right?
Right.
So then how independent were those videos? I don't know. I mean, there's a gray area, like you were saying. So
yeah. I've been, those emails are great, by the way. Like I got one recently for an electric scooter that goes 45 miles per hour. I was like, oh, so tempted.
I saw that same one.
Yeah. The guy's like shredding on the beach. I was like, oh, that looks so good.
This is the recipe for a hospital visit. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess my approach is like, I would never, again, I wouldn't do a paid review or presentation. I wouldn't take sponsorship money from a company that I'm going to review eventually on the channel. Mm-hmm. So that really narrows who I could like take money from and sleep well at night, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not a bike brand. It wouldn't be someone that does accessories or hard goods,
right,
or anything. So that's why like the only sponsors I've had this year that have paid money to be presented from the channel for content has been like my VeloFit. And for me that's okay because it's like a tool. I used it. It was great. And it's it's kind of, it falls in like experience, but it isn't like, it's not a bike brand.
right.
I've also done some ad reads for like destinations. I think I did one or two earlier this year.
Yeah.
And to me, that's fine too, because that's a place where you can take your bike and have a good time. It's not like, I'm reviewing the bike and, taking their money. So.
Right. There were a couple of the quintessential like Squarespace spots, weren't there?
Yeah. I was doing I think I did 3 Squarespace. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but I went to renegotiate my terms and didn't hear back from the agency.
Oh.
Because and it wasn't about the money. It was because they wanted me to click all these things in the ads where, it wouldn't show competitor ads. But when you do that on YouTube, it affects all your channel videos, not the ones that you produce. And then I emailed some other creators that were doing Squarespace ads, and I was like, did they make you do this? And they're like, no. I was
Oh.
So when I went back, I said, okay, we'd like to work together, but I can't, I'm not going to do that. Because they, and didn't hear back from them.
Yeah. You're trying to pull a fast one on you.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like, the offers that you get are different depending on whether it's the brand directly or if it's the agency, and the different agencies offer different things.
Right.
Yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, there's always a demand to create new videos, like from the creator standpoint. Like there's demand to keep being creative, keep your output up. And I don't know, sometimes it's just easy to do one of these sponsored things. It's not easy, it's convenient, right? Because they'll send you product and you review it. And,
there's always that math for me. It's like, is the squeeze worth the juice?
Yeah, right.
Like like I did a review of the DJI Action 4 camera, and they wanted to pay, and it was actually a good amount, and I was like, no. And I felt I felt good ethically, but my wallet felt sad. Yeah, so that's where it's like it's tough because like I try to stand by my word as much as possible.
Sure.
Even though lots of commenters don't think so, but that's
well, but more to your character, you actually have a word. Like it's not like a moral YouTube compass. Whereas I think a lot of us are probably just scrambling for whatever's there, and probably take some time to develop that compass over time. Seems like you started with that.
Yeah, it was it's hard. It's feast or famine like the first couple years. Like the only way it's able to grow it to this point without starving is like Laura was working at Adventure Cycling and we could rely on one stable-ish income.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but paid off. I think you probably realize it. You're not gonna like brag about it, but you've certainly changed the industry to some extent. So, and a lot of people I think they respect your channel enough to, you're probably not getting those types of emails saying, "Hey, we'll pay you to do this," from like your favorite brands, right?
Right. No.
Well, and part of it's because they know what you're about. They respect your channel that much. So
yeah.
So
everyone buy some stickers. Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, like we wouldn't have to sell anything. We wouldn't have to ask anyone any brands for money, and we could somehow just be, survive. But I mean, there's some economics at play, and I just try to keep keep your hands as clean as you can.
Sure.
In the process.
Well, selling your own product is totally clean, right?
Yeah. That's why we started. It's like, okay, we have no control over, brands that are going to sponsor us. We have, maybe we have, even less control over AdSense.
Right.
But we can make stickers and sell them. that we can put our arms around. So
nice.
Let's see. Trenking asks, how do you see your changing the channel? Well, I hope it doesn't change the channel. I hope we can keep the same kind of content going. Like I have fears that people are going to stop watching because they're not interested in like biking in Spain or European brands or something, since most of our viewers are in North America. But I'm hoping that, I don't know, I'm hoping it'll be essentially the same-ish, but with just different brands and different opportunities. So.
Sure. Your content is diverse enough where I think even if you prioritize one section more than another, your viewers aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Cave of bad ideas. Bad ideas are bad ideas anywhere.
Yeah. That's the part I'm going to miss. I've like had to whittle, my workshop to just like a multi-tool, which is really sad. Let's close on that. We've got like about 10 more minutes. Let's talk tools.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so you picked up a new tool recently. Tell me about it.
Well, actually, we only decided to talk about this because we both, or actually, I just recently picked these up.
Oh, yeah.
The Vera ones.
Vera or Vera?
Twinsies. Yeah, see,
what do you think? What do you think?
They're really nice. Yeah. I like how it's weird. This is such a niche conversation. I like how they feel when you're turning the screw. Right? They just fit well into the screw.
Yeah.
One of my students was mentioning someone, I forgot the name, but someone did actually published a white paper on play in hex wrenches. So they put the wrench in like a brand new Allen head and then measure the amount of play in degrees. Right. And so you could get this like range of like how much play there is for different brands. And the Vera ones had like the least play or one of the best. And I think that, they just feel good to use. Yeah. Honestly, I think I was looking for any excuse to buy them because I've been using these forever. And and one day I misplaced my 2.5.
There you go. Like, I have to get a brand new set.
I misplaced it for like 2 hours, and I like before I left the garage, I ordered the winter ones, and then I found the 2.5 the next day.
Yeah, but now you can do a comparison video. There you go.
Sure, yeah. One thing that I will note about these is it's hard to kind of explain, but the actual handle piece, like the main cylinder,
Yeah.
the diameter is bigger than the actual head. I mean, it's not working at all. Right. So there's a couple of instances where you need to like go pretty deep into like a crevice to get to the screw head, like the Grotac brakes to get the pad adjustment.
Right.
These ones don't fit.
Okay.
So I had to resort back to the Park ones for that.
Do you think you can cut the rubber sleeve part off, or
no? So it's not the rubber sleeve; it's the actual metal cylinder.
Okay.
Yeah, the bar stock, I guess, has a slightly larger diameter than the head.
Interesting.
Okay, so I mean that's the only place that's come up is when I'm trying to do the pad adjustment for the Grotacs.
Yeah,
but yeah, just something that I noticed. It's also really hard to like pull them out.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about designing a little like tool holder and then 3D printing it so that more of a benchtop setup. Yeah. But so I've liked these so far. You've had yours for a while, yeah?
Yeah, I got them a couple months ago. Again, I was looking for an excuse to try them, and it wasn't until after I dug the colors, but I was like, okay, that's what's special about that. But it wasn't until like we chatted with them at Otter and he had that big demonstration thing. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Meaning that the profile of the
the whole Hex Plus kind of profile.
Right.
And it's hard to like I've had them for months, but it's hard to say if they decrease the wear on the fasteners any. But existentially, I can sleep well at night knowing that they're doing something.
Yeah, they're cool. You can identify them. I think at this point in my mechanic tenure, my tenure as a bike mechanic, I mean, I can look at an Allen wrench, and that's maybe one of my only superpowers. I can look at it and I know what size it is. But for everybody else, then
right,
color coding.
Yeah. The orange one goes with the stem.
Right. So they're nice. So far they've been really nice.
Yeah, I've noticed. I was gonna take these with me to Spain, but they're friggin' heavy.
They are, yeah.
But I found out that they make the L wrench kit in like a shorty stubby size. Also,
yeah.
Which I would have bought if I knew about them earlier. I've been trying to like come up with an excuse to buy the shorter ones, but maybe I'll just get them when we're in Spain.
Sure. Or I'll tell Laura to like misplace one of them, so you have to.
There you go. I can't find my 2. I have to get a whole new set. It just ruins it.
Yeah.
So Sandra Chiabra asks, how do they compare with the Swiss PB wrenches in your opinion? I've not had a chance to try those. Have you tried those?
I haven't. Nope. Yeah, I know those are like top shelf tools. Yeah, I just haven't had experience with them.
Yeah.
Wish I had. Spaller, as you would put it.
It's amazing like how many tool nerds there are.
Yeah, I know.
Like I posted on the gram and they're like, I work on planes and bikes and the Vera tools are awesome. I was like, wow, that's a thing.
Yeah. Tools have that effect. They polarize. People have strong opinions about tools.
Yeah. Do you think it's like someone had made a comment, well, it's like, any Allen wrench would do. Why would you get like a luxury product? And granted, they were expensive, but they're like, okay, if $35 is a luxury product, then yeah, every day, 100%. But it's if it's something that you use often, it's nice to have like good tools, like a good nice tactile haptic feedback.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're gonna spend money on one bike tool, it should be like a nice set of Allen wrenches. I think that's what you use 90% of the time.
Yeah.
That and maybe a torque wrench.
Yeah.
Nice torque wrench.
Did you pick up that new Feedback Sports one?
I have it. Yeah. This is the other tool I wanted to talk about. This guy here. It's they have I don't know, it's a very quiet release. They had this is called the feedback range torque wrench, but this is the new version. They don't even call it a version 1 and a version 2. This is just replacing their old one. And the old one would go from like, I forgot what it was. I think 2 to 10 Newton meters, something like that.
Yeah.
And so range is always like a thing for me. Like when you get, like this is probably the one I use the most. This one goes from 2 to 14.
Yeah.
That's mostly what you need, right? You don't need too much more than 14 for any of the stuff you do normally. So this has the range, and it's really small. It's got a really good feel. Comes with a pretty nice case, and you know all the bits.
Okay.
Like exactly all the bits that you would need. I was surprised because when I opened it, I was like, "There's a few long ones." I was like, "Well, when am I going to need those long ones?"
Right.
And like, you know, I was trying to like torque down a brifter on a handlebar. I was like, "Dang, I need my extension right now." And it's like, "Oh, this one fits exactly in there." So,
what's the is it like a clicking head similar to the Park, or is it like a beam style?
Yeah, no. So this is a click type torque wrench. And the thing is, like, it's really short. So one of the first things I did was I tested, like, you know, you're supposed to hold it here, right at the very end.
Yeah.
How hard is it to actually get 14 Newton meters on this? And the answer is pretty easy. Like you can do it with 2 fingers, just supporting the back end of the wrench with your thumb.
Okay.
And that was enough to do crank pinch bolts. I think I did 12 or what are those, 12 to 14 Newton meters? So I put 14 Newton meters in. It was pretty easy. Yeah, it's definitely like one of my, probably my latest favorite tool in the shop is the feedback range torque wrench. And yeah.
So for those style torque wrenches, it's a best practice to zero it out, right? Or does it throw it off if you leave it at, you know, like 6 Newton meters or something?
Yeah, it's probably one of those things that's blown out of proportion, but you are supposed to zero them out to bring the spring. There's a spring inside, so you want to bring that back to equilibrium as much as possible. You know, if you leave a spring stretched out over time, however long that is, it'll change its equilibrium point.
Right.
And then the other thing I like about this is there's one obvious place where you're supposed to hold it, right? It's like this silver knurled bit at the end, and that's where you're supposed to apply torque.
Right.
A typical torque wrench like this, you know, it's got like a handle, and it's pretty clear you should hold the handle here.
Right.
But do you apply force here or here or here?
Yeah.
Probably my most controversial video is the one where, yes, you actually have to hold this in the middle to get the right torque.
That was a great video, by the way. That was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. Like I tend to be a bit of a ham-fisted mechanic. I was like, a handle is a handle, you know, but it was amazing to learn, like, you know, where you hold the tool, like, will throw off you know, the kind of torque you're applying.
Yeah. Only for the click type. Like, you know, everyone's thing is torque, and there's, even to this day, like a handful of comments like every week, like, you're an idiot, torque is torque, it doesn't matter where you hold it. But for this type of wrench, it actually does. Like what turned me on to this was I did another video, and Park actually responded and said, "Hey, this actually not the right way to do it." So I turned around and thought about it for a while. Then I made that update video. But you know, people have tested on an actual torque calibration machine.
Right.
You basically put this on like it's a torque sensor. I think it's just done by a strain gauge torque sensor, and they'll hold. For the same torque setting, they'll hold the wrench at different places, and the reading will show up with different numbers at the time when it clicks. So,
yeah,
very, very counterintuitive, but I stand by the numbers.
So that doesn't affect like the beam style torque wrenches?
No, beam style, that's a length independent type of torque wrench.
Okay.
For beam style, torque is torque.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Not these click types.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think I'm going to take us home here. It's always good to end on some tool nerdery. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on the live stream. I think the next time we do this, I'll be in a completely different time zone, continent. So we'll work out the timing.
It'll be at 7 a.m. for me or something like that.
Well, I did, yeah. Yeah, no, it won't be, but it won't be this time.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right.
All right, thanks everyone. If you haven't already, definitely check out Nolan's channel, The Bike Sauce. Lots of good bike nerdery there. You can see his one of his more recent vids using my VeloFit, all that stuff. And as always, good night. Keep the supple side down.